everybody. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to TCR Trinity Competitive Racing.
Well, TCR TJ is the Season 13 Golden Class Champion for Trinity Competitive Racing.
Oh, let's go, dude! Yes!
Jabbar on the podium! He's on it by a 10! Gentlemen, side by side through one.
And Silent, and Liveries gets a half spin.
Let's fucking go! Wheel bumping.
DRS enable, let's do it.
And Captain Blade battling it out for position. Captain Blade.
Ickle, what the?
The McChicken goes around and he also makes
Rewind down the front straight. Oh my god. I gotta check the heart rate.
Why do we do this? Because of nights like this.
Yo, welcome everybody to TCR, Trinity Competitive Racing, and welcome to another episode of the Racing Debrief Teachers Podcast, where we combine the world of e-racing, sim racing, and TCR with real-life motorsports and Formula One, a true racing enthusiast. Listen, I'm your host, C. Freeze, alongside usual co-host of Mr. Camden Luca. And this is episode 40, another big episode. We're getting close to number 50, and today we will be ranking the car liveries for 2024 in order from 10th to 1st. Camden will give his list, I will give my list, and we'll see if you guys all agree. But yeah, welcome Camden, and welcome everybody, and let's get into it.
It's a big day, the 40th episode of the podcast, and I just want to shout this out just because this happened. Daytona 500 today, Hendrick Motorsports got the win on the 40th anniversary of their team, so I think it's a little ironic that we're having our 40th episode today as well. So this is going to be a little bit different. We're going to be talking about paint schemes, and I'm excited.
Yeah, well, me and Camden, we just made our lists right now, our top 10. I think it was I thought overall this car launch for this season was kind of underwhelming, but there were a few surprises and some that I think I really like, and not surprised because they didn't really change their livery. There were some surprise color palette changes, but there were some identical teams with their true colors, but they had a different shift on it, a different tweak to their design. So, but we're going to see a nice theme throughout this list. A lot of the carbon teams, in my opinion, are not the best looking cars. So I think for that reason is why I'm saying it's a little underwhelming, and I think F1 needs to step in and change this rule to say that you need to put more paint on the car, because I did just find out that there's a 10%, I'm pretty sure I heard that there's a 10% of the car needs to have paint on it. Which means
really?
Which means 90% of the car could be all carbon, not painted at all. And I don't know where I heard that from. It was on some reporting, YouTube podcast, whatever. I don't know if that's an official rule in the Formula One rules and regulations, but if it's only 10% of the car that needs to be painted, I mean, each year and year that we go, I mean, I think we're going to get closer to that 10%. I mean, Alpine's very close to that at the moment, but I think they have to up that up a little bit because you want your brand to be recognizable, and if every team is just pulling more and more paint off the car, soon we're going to have 10 cars looking like carbon.
Exactly, and not even that, but there are some cars to where their color selections are just a little boring. You know, it's not the colors they're using necessarily. It's just how they're using it, and we'll get into all of that in a second. But really, though, like, you have a little bit of everything. Because, like you said, there were a few teams that did not change anything. You had a few teams that changed a little bit, and then you had a couple teams that just did a complete 360, which one of those teams, I'm actually a huge fan of their paint scheme. But, yeah, we'll talk about all of that right now.
Yeah, well, so we'll start at number 10. Who do you have for number 10?
So I was going back and forth between two cars because they're both pretty disappointing in my opinion, and they are two of the slower cars on the grid. But for me, coming in at number 10, I have to go Haas. I cannot look at the front of the car. If you look at the car from the side, I don't think it looks as bad because you have the classic red and black look. The black takes up all of the side pod area. You have the red on the wings of the car. But then you also have black on the front nose of the car too. So when you turn the car around and you look at it from the front, it looks wrong. You know, it looks like there's too much black on the car, and the colors just are in incorrect positions. So I've got Haas coming in at last.
Okay, I see that there. I did not have the Haas last, but I had the Alpine.
Really?
As the worst car for me. Now, I will say, I love the colors that they have and color palette that they have, but it's like they didn't even use it because each year, and I thought the Alpine back when they first went to Alpine was one of the best looking cars on the grid. I think it was 2021. So since then, each year they've been taking off more and more paint from the car. To now, I don't really, it just looks incomplete to me. I really just don't know how you can mess up it with all these colors, the shades of the pinks, the darker pinks, the light pinks, the shades of the blue, the BWT as the sponsor. Like, I just feel like they just didn't place the color where it needs to be. And there's just too much black and carbon on the car for me to like see the whole paint livery in full. I feel like it's an incomplete car, and that's why it's last, because there's no rhyme or reason as to where the paint is on the car. And I think they just went with, hey, this is the amount we're putting on the car this year, let's try to make the most of it, and it's incomplete in my opinion.
Yeah, well, that's kind of how I feel about Haas because, like I said, you know, the colors for me on the Haas were a little lopsided. You know, they put colors in incorrect positions, maybe a little bit too much black. You know, I actually don't mind the Alpine, and I think it'll look different when it's on track, right? You know, everything looks different compared to when it's in a showroom versus on a racetrack. But I don't mind the black. I do think there could be a little more pink just because, like, there's no other pink cars in Formula One. Yeah. You know, that's what made Racing Point stand out. Exactly. That's what's made Alpine stand out. But I think the hot pink actually kind of meshes well with the black, and I wish they would have done a little more of that. If they would have put a little more hot pink on the car, I think it would have been a much better blend. But overall, I mean, you know, it's different for everybody, but I don't mind it. I do agree with you that there's a little too much black, but I wouldn't put it at 10th, and I probably won't even put it in my bottom 3.
Interesting. And I think if they did have more color on the car, it would be one of the best looking liveries, similar to how they entered the sport. But yeah, I just think it's incomplete. But I'm actually going to go and do my 9th next because it is the Haas. So since you had a 10th, I thought maybe I'll pick my my number 9th seed would be the Haas here. Now, the reason why it's not last for me, and I know a lot of other people are putting it number 10, is I might be a little biased, but coming from Stewart Haas Racing and the NASCAR world, I've always loved, like, these are their colors. The black, the gray, the white, and that red matches perfectly with all their sponsors. The MoneyGram, also Haas is a sponsor and the name of the team, and a couple paint schemes in NASCAR, specifically on the 41 car, at times, even the 14 at times, had this similar paint scheme. So they can kind of get away with not painting some of the car because it matches their identity of their colors. So they're not really losing much. When you think of Haas, I think of this car. Do I wish there's more white and red and a different scheme? Yeah, I think a little bit more could have been done. But I don't hate it. I just think they could do a little bit more with it. And but the reason why it's not 10 for me is just because it is their identity. It looks complete because these are their colors. It's not like they were trying to remove color from their car like Alpine did. Alpine just removed color from the car to save weight, and you can see it in their livery. It looks incomplete in my opinion. For the Haas, they removed it, and they can kind of get away with it because that's their logo, that's their colors that they're true to. But I wish they could have done a little bit more, but I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's Haas. It's like whatever, but it doesn't pull you off the street by any means.
Yeah. You know, one thing I will say with Haas is that they have been consistent. You know, their brand has always been those three colors of red, white, and black. They're not like Red Bull Junior, which that's the team I'm calling them, because I'm not calling them the Visa Cash App second Red Bull team, whatever you want to call it. Haas has always been consistent, right?
Yep.
So
besides the Rich Energy Day. But
yes,
even that livery was cool, but it was based off a sponsor. But yeah, besides that year, they've been true to what they've entered in, and these are their colors.
I agree, 100%. So for number 9, I don't know if this is going to be a hot take or not. I'm curious as to where you're going to put these guys, but I've actually got Williams at number 9, and part of the reason I've got them this low is just because I'm disappointed. Because Williams used to be literally my favorite paint scheme in the sport. Back in 2019, when they ran the FW42, they were sponsored by Rokit, I think that's what it's called. But they had this light blue paint scheme with a white that really complemented the whole scheme well, right? It was a lighter paint scheme. The Rokit logo had like a red O in the logo, and it made it pop out, especially when the car had red soft tires on it. It was perfect. For me, with this Williams paint scheme, and it's been the same problem the last couple of years, everything is too dark. You have a dark blue outline to the car. You have a lot of black, and not only that, but like, I get they're sponsored by Duracell, but I really just don't like the brown that they have on top of the car.
You don't like that?
I get it. It's supposed to look like a Duracell battery, but to me, it stands out like a sore thumb. Especially with all of the other... If they were to bring back some of the white, if they were to implement that and make the car a little bit lighter, then yeah, it probably would look better. But to me, there's nothing that stands out about it. I don't like cars that are all dark, especially if they're a bunch of different shades of dark blue, the way that this car is. So I'm just not a fan of it. I get why people like the Duracell brown on top of the car, but it stands out too much for me.
Interesting. All right, well, there you have it, and I'm actually gonna place Williams at my number 8 car. So
well, there we go.
We're not too far off so far. I actually really liked their last year's livery. I thought it was a little brighter. I thought it was a nice change when they did the. I think last year was like the first year. It was under the new ownership. I'm pretty sure. New, or maybe not fully, but it was definitely a change. Last year was like they did a different livery change. And I thought it was bright. I thought it worked well. That's when they implemented the Duracell battery at the top, which I love. I really do. I don't think it sticks out. I think it makes sense, and it's actually a pretty smart placement for a sponsor, especially a battery sponsor, because it looks like a battery. So that's why I don't really mind it up there.
Yeah,
I just think it looks a little dark, like you said. It is darker. They do have some of the Williams colors at the front of the nose, which I like. They're implementing that. But for me, it's just a downgrade from what they had last year. And with a grid that looks so dark already, they just added more to it. So you want to stand out as a car, as a team. And they just blend it back in.
Yeah, no, it's not that I don't like the battery. I just think with this car, the fact that the base of the paint scheme isn't exciting. It's like you're adding mud to a tar pit, you know, like it's not gonna do much.
I agree. Yeah. And I've always liked the Williams liveries back in the day with the white and then the martini, you know, the Williams color stripe back in the day. And then there was a few years where they had like weird blues and weird shapes. I like the shades and the shapes. It's just dark. If they went with the lighter color, kind of like last year, I feel like they didn't really have to change much from last year. It would have been, you know, and I think we did do an episode last year about car liveries, and I'm pretty sure I had it towards the top, and so I'm kind of disappointed with this one.
Yeah, I agree, definitely.
And Camden, what do you have for number 8?
Number 8, I've got the Visa Cash App Red Bull team. I don't want to say they're getting points docked for the name, but if I could, I would, you know, implement that in my ranking. But no, you know, for me, like, I like lighter cars. You know, I like cars that have a lot of white, have a lot of, you know, happy colors. There's too much white though. You know, you have the white bowl on the top of the car. That's one element of white. You have white on the rear wing. You have the white Visa logo. You have a white stripe going up the side at the end of the side pod, and you have a little bit of white on the front wing. Not the whole wing, just a little bit of it. I think it's just a little too much white because it just makes it look incomplete. I like the dark blue, you know, the traditional AlphaTauri dark blue. And even the red, you know, they have the red on the halo of the car. It's good. The colors are good. It's just I feel like they need to make it feel a little more complete.
Interesting. That's a shock to me. That's a shock placement, in my opinion.
You think so?
I think so. But I do see your point with the white and maybe a little bit too much of it. So I could see that, but my eyes don't see that.
Maybe you need to get your eyes checked.
Maybe you.
Yeah, maybe me. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, interesting take there. All right. Well, that's your 8th. So I guess we'll move to number 7. Now, for me, this is when it could get interchangeable. But I do have for number 7 the newly. This was a shock to the grid. This is, I don't know their full name, but Kick Sauber Kick.
Really? You don't like that?
Or not Kick, Steak Sauber. I don't know what their team is. I have it at number 7. I actually really like the color combo with the green and the black. But I feel like some of the placement of the green, especially towards the rear of the car with that lightning bolt look, it just doesn't do it for me. And it looks very bland and basic, almost like a livery you would make on the F1 game. You could probably make this same livery on the F1 game and run it on one of the multiplayer cars. The black and that neon green you really can't mess up, because that's a good color combination. A lot of black and an accent color usually runs well together when there's two colors like that, black and an accent color. But apart from that, it just seems and it is what it is. It's a temporary placement car livery for when they're rebranding. They got rid of the Alfa Romeo. They're now Steak Sauber, and we're moving more towards Audi. So they're getting rid of the rebranding and they're moving towards that. So that's what this is. I like it. I think all these other liveries I like. And then as we get towards the top, I'll start to love the liveries. I like the livery. I just think some of the placement of the green was a little weird. But I think I love it because, like I said, you can't really mess up a black and then an accent color of that neon green. And it's a shock, too. We didn't see this before, so that's why I like it.
Yeah. I definitely have this paint scheme a lot higher than 7th, partially because I've always loved green paint schemes, and especially, a lighter green the way that Sauber's is. And honestly, I think the black and the green is a good combination, and I think there's a good amount of both of them. But I can see why, people may not like it, and I can't get that thought out of you saying it looks like something that somebody made on the F1 game, because it actually kind of does. The more I think about it,
I'm pretty sure I can match this.
yeah. So I do agree with that.
But I will say, from this and up, I could pretty much interchange a lot of the car liveries. So second thoughts, I probably could bump this up, no, not down. If anything, I'd move it up. But yeah, this is where I put it. But yeah, how about you for 7?
So for number 7, I've got Aston Martin. And it's not that I don't necessarily dislike the paint scheme, it's just they didn't change anything. And this has never been a paint scheme that has stood out to me. The dark green is cool and whatnot, but it's not a special paint scheme to me. So the fact that they took a good paint scheme and they just copy and pasted it gives me no reason to put it up any higher.
Interesting. I'll get to Aston pretty soon. But
Okay.
Yeah, I'll give my thoughts when I release mine. All right. Number 6. Would you like to go? Do a little back-to-back for Camden?
Yeah, I can do number 6.
Let's see what you got.
Yeah. So I'm gonna kind of stay with the same thing that I said before as to this next paint scheme didn't change at all. I'm going with Red Bull at number 6. And the thing is, I love Red Bull's paint schemes. As much as I'm a Mercedes fan and I've always rooted against Red Bull, it's a classic paint scheme. It's always been really cool. The red, the yellow, the black, it's classic, right? But I can't give it any more points because all they did was copy and pasted it. And in my opinion, there's just some paint schemes that came out this year that I just prefer a little bit more. So not a knack to Red Bull, but they didn't change anything. So I got to put them at number 6.
Yeah, and, actually, for me too, it is number 6 for Red Bull.
Oh, there we
and
go.
That's the first match of the day. Hey, it's a date.
Whoa,
I will say that
Yeah.
for Red Bull, like you just mentioned, I'm not knocking them, putting them down at 6 because I think I ranked it higher last year. I just think other liveries that came out I prefer over this, just because this has been the same, and I think I'm starting to prefer other liveries just because they're changing. Not saying they have to change a whole much, but I think they could do a little bit more with their color palette. I think for me that almost dark purple, navy, dark purple blue, whatever color that is primarily on their car, I feel like it's always been dark. You remember when they had the more of the brighter purple at Red Bull, more like 2014, 15 and earlier. I've always preferred that purple over this color. But I also think they could do more towards the back with that Red Bull, where the engine cover is. I feel like that, to me, could stand out more. You know, your Red Bull, that could really be more of a significant piece of the car. Other than that, I like the yellow bits with the Bybit sponsorship, Red Bull and the Oracle. You know, it all is really nice. I think it's just a little, you know, like you said, it really hasn't changed much in recent years. But I think they could do more. I feel like Red Bull, they've always had some good liveries with like special liveries. You remember a few of the test sessions.
The Las Vegas
pre-season.
livery I love. The Las Vegas livery was great.
I will say some of the special liveries, like when they've gone to Miami, Las Vegas, those are always pretty cool. But even like the pre-season testing liveries, when I remember one year, I think it was when Ricardo was still there, they had a camo livery, looked pretty cool. And I feel like Red Bull, how innovative they are for their cars and just their brand as a Red Bull brand, I feel like they could come up with a nice, much better looking livery that really, you know, does more for you. Like even on the nose, you have the yellow at the right at the tip, and you kind of have the Red Bull around, like the bull or something around it, but nothing really stands out. It's really just that dark purplish color with the majority, and then sponsorship over it. There's not a whole lot. I don't hate it. I don't love it, and you know, I think it's good. It's a good iconic livery, but I think they can make a much better iconic livery if they really did change it. I think maybe they should change it or consider changing it when they go into the next rules change in 2026. I think that's a good time to rebrand just a little bit, give an updated livery.
Yeah, everything's going to be changing in 2026, so you might as well change the paint scheme then, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, going back to your point about the old Red Bull paint scheme, if they came out with a 2024 paint scheme that looked like the 2014 paint scheme with the purple, that would go straight to #1 for me. I freaking loved that paint scheme back in the day. I love the color purple too. Like if there were a team that had a purple paint scheme, man, we're missing out. Like we need purple to come back. Yeah. And I'm not talking like a really dark purple. I'm talking like a Prince purple. You know, like that type of purple. A purple that really stands out.
Purple rain.
Your knees.
Purple rain.
Sing it.
Boo, 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 boo.
Oh, you don't even know the words. That's lame.
I was doing the beat, Camden.
That
was the guitar solo.
Okay, that's a great guitar impersonation there. Dude, seriously, like if there were a car that had purple and yellow, straight to #1. Straight to #1.
Yeah. Well, like you said earlier, with when you had Racing Point with the pink, you know, you have now Sauber with that lime green. If you can stand out in any way, like why wouldn't Red Bull want to go to that iconic purple that they used to use, right?
Exactly.
Because you would stand out, and you'd be the only team with purple.
Mm-hmm.
You might as well, you know, like you want to stand out. So if every team has their distinct color, you can really separate yourself, really stand out. With this, it's iconic, but it could be so much better. Like you said, if they had that purple, I would.
Yeah. liveries are a huge part of the popularity of any motorsport. You know, NASCAR back in its heyday, all the paint schemes really stood out. You had some really good paint schemes, and I feel like the paint schemes in NASCAR have kind of become too complicated nowadays. And the same could be with Formula One. You know, like back in the day with Ferrari. You know, Ferrari's always had a pretty basic paint scheme, but back during the Schumacher days, it was just red. You know, back during the Ayrton Senna days with McLaren, it was just, you know, a pretty basic paint scheme, right? So basic is the way to go. And there's too many overcomplicated paint schemes and liveries nowadays.
I agree. Well, at least we agreed on something. We both have Red Bull at 6th. How about number 5?
Number 5 is where I'm going to put Alpine. And
really?
We touched up on it before. Yeah, I haven't mentioned Alpine yet, but I do like the colors. If they were to implement more pink, I would probably put them higher. But I like it. I think it's a good mesh of colors, and you know, it might come out a little bit different on the track when the sun is coming down on it and it's got a little more glamour compared to a dark showroom. The colors might stand out a little bit more.
There you have it.
What about you? What do you think?
All right. Well, for my number 5, I have McLaren.
Really?
Yeah, I actually really like this livery because it is just black and orange. Like I said, when you have any car that has black and then an accent color, particularly a brighter color, and the orange particularly goes well. I just think there's a little, like I said, a little too much black and carbon on the car. I think they got rid of more color from last year. I still think it goes well. The placements of the orange look good from the sponsor Velo, and on the back of the wing, at the front of the wing, towards the back of the engine cover. I think they placed the colors where they should be, so it's not like... That's why I place this higher than the Sauber car, because the Sauber car, I feel like that little lightning bolt at the end of the engine cover, they kind of just, let's paint it green here. At least with McLaren, there's like reason of why they're putting the orange on certain parts of the car, so it looks just a little bit more unified. But I really like the liveries back when they originally kind of almost started with the orange, and almost the whole car was orange and blue. I really did not like when they came back or changed to more of this orange and black. I actually preferred the orange and more of that blue from when they started back in like 2018 onward. I like those colors better, but I still like it. But again, they took away some more color, but still looks pretty good, and I'll put it for number 5.
Yeah, you know, I actually really love the McLaren paint scheme, and I love the fact that they're going with more of an orange and black look, and they're getting rid of like blue and even white, you know. Because the thing with me is I love paint schemes that really blend, that don't need so many different colors, you know. So it's, like I said, simplicity is better sometimes, and I really like this McLaren paint scheme. So I'm not gonna put them next. I figured we can probably just jump up to number 4. You know, I was gonna put this.
Wait, what do you have
car,
for 5? Or are you skipping 5 for now?
5 was Alpine.
Oh, my bad. Forgot to write it down.
Yeah, short-term memory. See, please. No. No. So I was talking before about this car I'm about to mention. I was gonna have it in the top 3, and then you made a reference as to how it looks like something that just got put into a F1 game. You know, something you can make on an F1 game. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. So I'm gonna put Sauber down at 4. I had it in the top 3 initially, but yeah, it's It looks a little too cartoonish. I love the black and green, though. I am a sucker for green paint schemes, especially a bright green, the way that Sauber is. But it's not a bad paint scheme. You know, I really like it. There's people that are not going to like it, but I like it. I think it's good, and you know, they probably will touch up on it next year and make it even better.
Yeah, well, I actually think next year you might not even see these colors on the car.
You don't think so?
Yeah, because this is just a placement holder for their team until Audi comes in. So next year, 2025, you might start to see some Audi, or you might see this one for another year. Depends. You could probably see this again. But I think this is just to get away from the Alfa Romeo brand and turn more towards Audi. Because Alfa Romeo is no longer with them, so they had to do something. This is kick or stake? Is that their color? Is the lime green part of their color, or I'm not too sure. I think it's
Based
part of
on what I'm seeing. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I'd have to look them up.
Yeah, so I'm looking right now at their Twitter, and the background is blue of their logo. It's like a dark blue.
For which one? Stake?
For stake, yeah, which is interesting.
And then look up kick.
Kick. Yeah, kick is green, so that's where the green comes in.
Yeah, so I mean that's pretty cool that they're going it off the sponsor. I think like you said, I love the colors combo. You really can't mess that up. I think I could have placed it here at number 4 too, but I think the reason why I put it down towards 7 is because for me, Red Bull, which I put at 6, and McLaren I had at 5, both of their liveries tie into their brand. McLaren with the orange, Red Bull, their colors ties into Red Bull. This doesn't tie into the team, it ties into a sponsor. So while the sponsor looks great, the car looks great, I think there's more reason as to why McLaren and Red Bull, those are iconic, with those colors. So interchangeable in my opinion, but yeah. Good pick for 4. For me, I have number 4. I have the Aston Martin.
Okay.
I really like the livery. I mean, it didn't change much, but I don't think it really needs to, because I think when they entered the sport, it was different because they had the BWT sponsorship. Once they got rid of that, it was perfect livery. Like last year, it was a good looking car. This year, you can see there's a few more parts of carbon on the car, and they're kind of hiding it at some points of where they're not putting the paint, so that visually you can see more green. But they are not painting every part of the car. There is a lot of carbon still on the side pods, specifically more lower on the car. So that's why I just bumped it down a little bit. But overall, that British, Aston Martin racing green color with that lime green goes right back to the brand of Aston Martin, and that's all you really have to do. Paint that green and have that lime green stripe down the side. I wish there was maybe a little bit more of that and a little bit more of that green, and then it would be literally a perfect livery. But I still really love it. I'm happy it's not patched up with a lot more carbon. At least they have more green on the car than some other teams like Alpine or like McLaren, who just keep taking paint off the car. So they also are guilty of it, but at a lesser degree. But nonetheless, I still love it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's not a bad paint scheme. I put it at number 7, but I think it's just more of a preference thing for me. I definitely don't think it's a lime green. I think it's more of like a darker green type thing. It's not bad, you know. It's just like you said, they didn't change anything. So, and I've never been crazy about it. So, I can respect it though. Putting it at number 4, I think that's fine.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, here we go. We're getting into the podium places. Our top 3. Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun.
I think you should go next.
Yeah. So, coming in at bronze, 3rd place, lowest step of the podium, I have McLaren. I love the colors. I love the black and orange. I love the fact that they're really trying to get away from the blue, and they're trying to really make the orange stand out a little bit more. And I like the fact that it's a darker orange too, because I think if it were a really light orange, like that, like the Gulf orange, you know, like that type of orange, I don't think it would work as well. So the fact that they're going with like a darker orange is good. It's a simple livery, and I like it.
I respect it. I like it. I like that for 3. For me, I have... Now, I know where maybe you might have it.
I know what you're gonna say.
I really like it. The Mercedes at number 3.
Yeah, I knew it. I knew.
I will say, I really love this. Like these next 3, I really love these next 3 cars, and I love the implementation of the silver arrows with that turquoise at more of the front of the car, and you could see a lot of silver when you're looking at it from the front wing to the rear wing at that front visual, and then more of the side or more towards the rear, you got that black that they have brought in with in 2020, and the combination of this is pretty much spot on. I feel like they maybe could have blended it somewhat better from more on the side pod area to where it goes into the black, but maybe there could be some other alternate versions that I could maybe like better, but I don't think anything hurts this livery. I don't think anything, for me, nothing is like, oh, I wish they wouldn't have done that. I think it's a good looking livery. If anything, I just prefer more of the silver arrows than the black, just because that when they were dominating for the most part, they were under the silver arrows with that turquoise. So I wish they just had a car like that. But the combination, especially in Lewis Hamilton's last year with the team, I think it's pretty cool. It's a pretty special livery, and they even have the little red on the top, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I know it's that sponsor that has that red. And the placement of it doesn't bother me. So I always think of that red as Niki Lauda's red hat that he always used to wear. So
I've never thought of it like that.
Yeah, I always think that's his hat.
Wow.
So for that, I don't mind the red there. But if Niki Lauda wasn't with the team and didn't wear the stupid red hat all the time,
wow,
then I'd probably not like it. But I really love this livery. It's cool for them, different, and this was kind of a shock with the team that you usually know what colors they're going with. They're either going with the black or the silver arrows, and they had a beautiful combination. So for that, I really like it. The only thing I maybe wish there is that if they did more of, like, you remember when they had Renault back in the day, they had the black and the yellow. So when you're looking at it from the front wing, it looks all yellow, I think, and then from the side, it looks all black. If they did something like that to where you look at the front of the car, it's all silver. You can't see any black. Then you go to the side angle and you see only black. If they did it more like that, that would be awesome. They chose to blend it, which is still cool, but if they did that concept, that would be like, oh. But they decided to blend it, and it looks awesome. really cool.
Yeah, I had a feeling they were going to do something different because I remember before the livery got announced, their social media team put out a post, and it was basically asking everybody, what do you prefer more of, silver or black? And I just thought that was just a very odd question because it made me think that they were going to go away from what they've done the last few years, and they ended up doing what they did.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think I know what is your number 2, but I'll let
Really?
you handle it.
Okay, so number 2, I've got Ferrari.
Of course you do.
Telling you, I'm telling you, it is a close number 2 because I freaking love this paint scheme. I love the white and yellow stripes that they have on the side of the car. I think it really complements the Shell logo, which is their sponsor, and it's on the side pod of their car. And of course the red. I've always loved Ferrari paint schemes because of that bold red, consistent to their brand. They've always had that shade of red. Yeah, I think this just works really well, and I think it looks even better too when they have medium tires on the car.
Yes.
When they have the yellow tires on the car with the yellow stripes, it's just
or
it's
even
perfect.
the white hard tires would work too, because you have the white stripe and you have the yellow stripe, so they both would kind of work.
Yeah, it's like when I said before about the Williams FW42 from 2019. When they had the Rocket logo with the red O on the car,
Ooh, yeah.
and they had red soft tires. It was just so cool. I really miss that paint scheme.
Yeah, well, I can't disagree with you. A good number 2 placement. I really love the Ferrari as well. But I don't have a number 2, so that means I have a different car at number 2. And I don't know if you've been keeping track, but
I have. I know what it is.
and this is kind of totally opposite of where you placed it, and that is the Red Bull, whatever you call it, the Cash App, Visa, give me some money, Hugo Boss, Toros!
Red Bull Junior. That's what I'm calling it. Yeah.
This is a Toro Rosso. I mean, I loved the Toro Rosso colors and the color livery. I think a lot of people did, and it was one of the better looking cars on the grid. Just because that silver with that silver bull with that blue, that gloss really pops. And I think the amount of white on the car, I know you were kind of pointing out that it's maybe too much, but I think it complements the silver of the silver bull. The red and that blue was Toro Rosso colors as well, and that white, I think it just all comes together, and I love it so much. Like the AlphaTauri colors for the few years were cool and they were different, but I always still prefer the Toro Rosso colors, and for them to go back to something very similar, I'm very happy with, and it just screams 2019 Seafreeze's Platinum Class Championship.
Oh, that's why you like it.
And that might be why I have it up a little high. But I really do like the livery. But I just, for me, an iconic livery for Toro Rosso is a similar livery to this, and I think they did a good job. The only thing I'll say is I'm very confused with this team, because, and this doesn't have to do with any livery stuff, just mentioning the team itself. In 2019 they were Toro Rosso. In 2020 they changed to AlphaTauri, the Red Bull's clothing brand, and they decided to rebrand the team. Then that's when we saw the white and the different livery, which I liked the livery, and the AlphaTauri name was cool, and it was different, and it worked well. After a few years, they decided that it wasn't really working. They wanted to change the team. So they got rid of the AlphaTauri, and they're going to use the Visa Cash App RB as the team name, but they're going back to the Toro Rosso car livery colors. So I just don't understand why they're naming the team Visa Cash App RB when the colors of the car are clearly identical to Toro Rosso. So to me, it's just a fundamental error in the way that they're marketing the team. It's like they wanted to get away with they wanted to get away from Toro Rosso as a brand. They went to AlphaTauri for a few years just to go back to Toro Rosso colors.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, all right, the AlphaTauri didn't work, but now you're going back to the same colors, but the team name is some weird team name. They should have just named it like Visa Cash App Toro Rosso. Would have made a lot more sense. Why have the RB there? So just my little 2 cents on it. Livery aside, love it.
Yeah, the branding has been inconsistent. I think that team has probably changed over more in the past 7 or 8 years than any other team.
Yeah. Besides Racing Point and Force India and Aston
Right,
Martin.
but now they have a pretty consistent
Now they do.
brand, though. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
That must mean your number 1 will be
Mercedes.
bum bum bum.
Yeah. And, I am a Mercedes fan, but look, this paint scheme is perfect for the circumstances of this year. Lewis Hamilton's last year, they took the gray and they took the black, the 2 eras of Mercedes. I've always loved the gray, I've always loved the black, but I've always felt like it's just hasn't been enough. Like they've always been good paint schemes for me, but nothing's really stood out to where they go boom, But to me, the gray and the black really complement each other well. They do blend well, and I like the fact that they're doing this in honor of Lewis Hamilton's last season with the team. And whether or not this was because of that or whether or not they planned this beforehand, it's perfect. This really sums up Mercedes' history really well. And, I've said this before on this episode, but everything does look different when it's on track. So yeah. I think once this gets on track, people will realize how great of a livery this is.
I want to see it at night. I want to see how it looks at night.
Yeah.
I want to see how all of them look at night, but I want to see how, with the black and the silver, what will pop from the car. With the lighting, I want to see what pops from the car.
Yeah.
Because I think it'll look
good. Well, I think I know which one is number 1 for yours, because I have been keeping track.
Yes, it is the Scuderia Ferrari team, and you know what? I am a Ferrari fan as well. Yeah, I mean, I think you could paint any car with that red, and it would almost instantly be, a good-looking car. And it looks good with the stripes, the new edition. It just looks clean. The placements of the sponsorship, no real funny things going on here. The only slight complaint is, again, that carbon bit at the back of the car. If they just painted, all of that in with that red, it would be like a perfect livery. But I think when you see it on track, you're not going to really see that carbon bit at the back of the car, because when you look at it from the front wing, you can't see it. All you see is the red and the stripes. So for that, it just is a beautiful looking livery, and Ferrari always has good liveries. Like I said, you paint the car with that red, you really can't mess it up. 9 times out of 10, you really can't mess it up. So I'd like to see how this looks on track as well, because there were some videos of it looking like more of the darker red, more of the red that they used at at one of their anniversaries when Vettel was still at the team. More of that darker maroon red. But from all the renders and everything I've been looking at, it looks more brighter red. So they have used different shades of red in the past, so I like to see this one out on track just to see exactly how it looks. But yeah, good livery. And is this a matte, or it looks like a matte color, or is it the gloss? Because
yeah, oh man, it does look like a matte a little bit. It's got that bold texture to it.
Yeah, it looks.
I'm not great with that stuff though. So.
I'm just gonna look right here real quick on see if I could just get a different picture that I could look from. My favorite livery is the 2018 Ferrari, because they use the gloss, and that just is very bright. And with that red, I've always loved the gloss finish. When they went to the matte finish, I feel like it wasn't as strong. To me, it does look brighter. I'm interested to see what they actually used. To me, it does look like some sort of a matte, but yeah, I guess we'll see once we get more out on track. But yeah, those are all the lists complete, all of us. So any final thoughts, Camden?
So I did want to go over a survey I saw. Okay. This comes from racefans.net, and I just wanted to bring this up just because I wanted to see what other people thought about the paint schemes. So I think we did a good job because we both picked Ferrari in our top two, and according to their survey, Ferrari was the most voted paint scheme on their survey. 38% of people had it as their favorite paint scheme. So Ferrari came in at number one. I'll do the top three, okay? So Ferrari was first. Mercedes had 16% of people say that it was their favorite paint scheme. So that came in at number two. And then Sauber came in at number three. 14% had Sauber. So people like Sauber, you know, it might be a hit or miss type thing, but those were the top three based on racefans.net survey.
Interesting. I feel like a lot of people picked the Sauber because of the change in colors, which I agree with. But yeah, it's good. Well, there you have it. If you got to the end of this episode, I want to thank everybody for listening all the way through. Give us your top 10 in the YouTube comments of all the liveries. Post it down below. Let us know, what you think. And yeah, the F1 season is just around the corner. We have preseason testing this week, so there's a lot to look forward to now that all the liveries are launched. We have TCR round number 4 at Qatar this week. This episode will be released on Tuesday morning, so that means today. Later on tonight, 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time, is the Challenger Series, and that would mean tomorrow, Wednesday, is the Elite Series, 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time. We have iRacing Super Formula on Thursdays. You can check out all TCR down in the description below and go to our website. You can sign up. We have roles all open that you can join. We'll try and get you in. Full-time reserve driver in any of the series, commentator, steward, any league help. You can apply for those. You can search us on all social media at Trinity Racing, and join our Discord where we are the most active, and you get extra information as our races are going on, including points, announcements, stewards, decisions. Our podcast is now on Spotify, so you can catch us on Spotify and the YouTube, and soon to be Apple once their program starts working for me. And because it's been giving me a few issues creating an account for that, but soon we'll be on Apple as well, so you can listen over there. And until next time, thank you all for listening. It's been Camden, it's been Seafreeze myself. It's been a pleasure. And until next time, thank you for listening.